So today we are going to look at SQL, and in this video you're going to be able to learn how to use MySQL Shell together with either WAMP or XAMPP. So, but regardless of the database engine that one is using, the ultimate goal here is to learn how to write SQL statements. So by the end of this video, you must be able to create a database, create tables, then select a database of your choice, be able to alter the table structure by either adding a column or maybe changing the column name or column data type. Then you should be able to also maybe truncate the table, or maybe drop a table, or even be able to drop the database itself. Then you should be able to write some select statements using some of the common clauses that can be written with a select statement to be specific or filter out some data from your database or in a certain table. So at this point, I expect you to have already installed MySQL Shell and either WAMP or XAMPP. So for my case, I'll be using WAMP. And then if you don't have MySQL Shell, just go to any browser of your choice and type MySQL Shell. Then you will be able to get the download. So MySQL Shell, you just click on it. You can even click on you can just type direct MySQL Shell download, and then you will have this. So once you see this link, dev.mysql.com downloads, you just click on it. And then from here, you should be able to select the operating system that you're working with. By default, it selects Windows, and then you go ahead and download the compatible version based on your Windows or whatever operating system. Once you click on download, your download should be able to start automatically. And then once the download is ready, then you can go ahead and install, like the way you install any other software on your device. Now that I have MySQL Shell already installed on my machine, I will not download it again. Right, I think I have internet breakdown, but that's okay. So once you have once this download takes place and you install the software successfully, then you should be able to come and open it from your installed software. So you just type MySQL Shell and you click on it, and the software will open. It looks like the command prompt, so it isn't a complex tool as such. So for you to be able to use it, then you must make sure that your database engine is running. So if you're using WAMP, you run your WAMP. If you're using XAMPP, you run your XAMPP. If by any case you're using Oracle or SQL Server, then you run it. So for my case, I'm using WAMP, then I should be able to go ahead and run it. Then it should start. So you must make sure that once this whatever engine you're running, its server must be running. It's MySQL must be running, and then once it runs, it should be in green. So mine is now fully running, all services are running, so I can be able to go ahead and start writing writing my SQL statements. I can just zoom in a little bit so that we can see this clearly. Just go to properties, then maybe put the font to 20, and this I think this is okay. So from here, now I want us to be able to see. So if it is now that our WAMP is running in the background, so I want to connect to it so that I can be able to work with that server. So the command for connecting to the server is simple. You just type there /. And now before I show you the command for connecting to the server, once you open, sometimes when you open your SQL shell, it might come with maybe a different language. For example, if it sometimes it might come as JS. Now the moment it comes as JS, you cannot be able to write SQL statements. You need now to change the mode to SQL. So you type that / and then you type SQL. So it will change the mode to SQL. So from here now you can be able to write your SQL statements. Once you confirm that now it accepts SQL, then the next thing, or the first thing, is to connect to the server. So the command for connecting to the server, you start with so any commands that are not SQL, start with that is it a backward slash or forward slash, then with a connect, and then so you type connect / connect, then the username. So my default username for my WAMP is root. So I don't know about your username for your WAMP, but usually by default the username is root. So you set connect root at localhost. So localhost indicates that the server you're trying to connect to is on your local device, or it is on your local network, or it is on, you are working with on the server itself. So this is why you're using localhost. Once you type in the username and localhost, then you go ahead and press enter. So it starts the session. Once you have the password, then you type there the password. As you're typing the password, you will not see any digits here, just for security purposes, but just know your password is being captured. Once you're done, you press enter, then it will ask if it wants to save the database. By default it doesn't save it, just press enter. So then it will start the session on your server. So you can see I've successfully connected to MySQL on port 3306. So I can go ahead and see those existing databases by just typing there show databases. Once I type there show databases, so any command that doesn't start with a /, that is an SQL command. So if it is an SQL command, it must end with a termination symbol, which is the semicolon. Then I will press enter, and in this case it is going to list all my databases that are at this database at this port. So I have the HRDB, I have this schema, these default ones that come along, then I have a patients InfoDB. So if my database that I want is listed among these ones, then I can go ahead and select it. If I don't have my database listed among these existing databases and I want to create a new one, the command for creating a new database is simple. You just type there create database, and then followed by your database name. So I can call this maybe coding sample DB. Once that is done, then I go ahead and terminate to end my statement, and I press enter. So once my command is correct, it must always return query okay one row affected. Once it doesn't return this, then you just get to know that there is a problem. So I can list this database again and see by typing show databases, just to see if our created database has been now added to the server. So as you can see, the database has now been listed. So the next thing is to select it out of the existing many databases here. For you to select it, Yeah, the command is simple. You just type there use, then the database name, which is to coding sample db. Press terminate, then you press enter. So you can see that now I'm connected to localhost port 3306, and the database that I'm connected to is to coding sample db, meaning that now I've connected to this database specifically and I'm not working with any other database on my server. Now that I've selected my database, I can go ahead and see if there are any existing tables in this database. So for me to see if there are any existing tables in this database, I would still type show tables, and then this should list all the tables in this database. Now that it is a fresh database with no tables, this is why it is returning empty set. So we can go ahead now and create a new table. So we are going to create a simple table, just a basic table with only 2 columns. We can maybe call this a users table. So the command for creating a table, a basic table, is create table followed by the table name. We can call this users table. It is important, it is in good practice that you prefix a database name with underscore db, and then you prefix a table name with underscore table, just as a good coding practice, so that when you see table, prefix table, you know it's a table. When you see underscore db, you know it's a database. So database name, then table, then into brackets the columns of this table. So I want this table to have a name and also to have so this name is going to store then after the column you must specify which kind of data type are the names going to be stored. So these names are going to be of val character, so variable character, and then the val character takes in a size. Maybe what could be the size of the name? Maybe I can say the longest name will be 50, and then comma, I put there another column name. So the next column can be maybe username, this can be password. So the password field can also be val character, and also this one, maybe the longest password can have about 30 digits. And then we close our opening bracket. This one here, we close it with this. So when we do that, then we can go ahead and terminate. So we press enter. If our command has no errors, then it should return query okay, like I said. So at this point we can now be sure that our table has been created. So we can just run this by maybe showing tables again. So we run show tables, we terminate, we see if our table has been created. So our user table has been successfully created. Now this is a basic table, as you can see, with no ID, with no primary key. So that is a basic table. So for you at least to create a standard table, as we know that all tables in a database must have a primary key at least, so that all records can uniquely be identified. So I want us to create another table while implementing the primary key constraints. So we shall write create table, and then the table in this case can be maybe students table. Let me use a small letter just to maintain students table. So in this table, the same round, we want it to have a column of ID, and this column is going to be of integer. Now when it comes to integers have got a default length that is cannot be manipulated. So for the integer you don't specify the length as you do for val character. So this one you leave it as that. Then this table is going to be of auto increment. It is going to be of auto increment and it is going to be our primary key, and also it cannot be null, so we set it as not null. All these are constraints of our id primary key, so when it is added it will be of integer and it will be auto incremented, meaning that the user cannot enter it manually. Then it is our primary key and it cannot be left empty. That's why that's what the not null means. Then we can now add here maybe the name of the student name, which is of var character. The name can be maybe 50, and then lastly maybe we can put the student's email, and the email can be of maybe 30, and then we terminate, we close the bracket that opened. Remember, don't always forget this bracket to close it, so we are closing it from here. So once our code is okay, then we go ahead and press enter. So if we don't have any bugs, it should return query okay. So we press enter. So what is it saying? We have an error. So this is how it looks like if the query is not okay. So this statement here indicates that we have an error in our syntax. So it is telling us you have an error in your SQL syntax. Check the manual that corresponds to your MySQL version for the right syntax to use. So it is telling us there is a problem. Now it's a challenge when it comes to troubleshooting MySQL, because it is not specific on where the error is. So you just have to go back and look through that command to see where exactly you messed up. So create table, students table, brackets, auto increment. So the auto increment, I think it doesn't have this underscore, so it could be just that with space. So auto increment primary key and then not null. So we try this troubleshooting and then we see if it has fixed our error. So we shall press enter again, and now it is telling us that we still have a bug, so meaning that was not the issue. So I'll add back the underscore. Alright, so I think the auto increment must have an underscore. So just to be sure, we shall now go line by line. Okay, we shall see our ID is of integer. This is auto increment, and now it is a primary key, and it is not null. We have a name of our character and we have an email. So as you can see on the email, I added 30, and yet the 30 is not on the variable, sorry, the data type. So I'll put here var character and then run enter. So now our query is perfectly fine. So we show tables again, we terminate this. So now we have two tables. Now assuming that you are not the one who created these tables, but you would want to see the table structures, so the command is simple. You just type there describe in short form, and then you can say student table. Terminate this, press enter. So it is telling us student table does not exist. Okay, we missed an S here, so we add the S, press enter. So you can see the table structure for the students table. It has got an ID, it is auto increment primary key. So we can also go ahead and describe our users table. Users table. So table is a prefix, and then we press terminate and press enter. So our users table has only got the name and password. So now, since we said all tables must have an ID, here now we are going to try to alter the structure of this users table, and we add there another column of ID that is integer, and it is primary key with auto increment. So here the command is simple. What we shall use is alter table. So the table we are altering is users table, and now this time around we are adding, the altering we are making is by adding a new column. So we use add column. The add column command adds a new column to a table, and this time around the column we are adding is of ID, which ID is integer, it is of auto increment, and now it is a primary key. So I think that's it. So we can even go ahead and add on not null, but since it is auto increment, now let's see how it works without the not null. So we press enter and our query is working perfectly fine. So we can now describe the users table again, just to see users table, and then here we are. So you can see this ID has been added. Initially it only had 2 columns. So now we've seen how to create a database, how to show a database, how to select a database, how to list tables in a database. We've also seen how to create a table in a database, and then how to alter a table by adding a column. So how do we change a column that is already existing? For example, now if we don't want to add a column here, but rather we want to change maybe this column name, the column name. So for us to do that, we can use still alter table. The table we are altering is users table, and then we are now not adding, but rather we are modifying an existing column. So this time round we shall write modify, and then what are we modifying? Modify column name. So we make it var character, and then this time round we want to give it, instead of 50 we are now putting there 100. So var character, maybe we can work with a password. We can work with a password. Okay, that's okay. Var character, so we are changing it from 50 to 100. Then we press enter, and then our query is okay. So we show the table again, we describe the table again for users, and then this time around we can see that our name has been altered from var character to, from 50 var character to 100 length. So that's how you alter and modify an existing column, and also how you alter by adding a new column. So in the next video we are going to see how we can insert into a table and also select from a table. Thank you.